glinting off the Entrepreneur of the Year award displayed on her desk. 10 years ago, she'd been sleeping in her car after her parents handed the family estate and her future to her stepbrother, Jake. She still remembered their cold words. Jake needs it more. You'll figure something out. She did. Working double shifts, selling handmade jewelry online, and swallowing pride to ask for loans, Mia built Luxe Designs, a now thriving luxury home decor brand. But the framed photo on her desk, a faded snapshot of her as a teen with her late mother, reminded her success hadn't erased the sting of being erased. Her assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Ms. Carter, your parents are here." Mia's pen froze. They hadn't spoken since the court finalized the disinheritance. Yet there they stood in her doorway, her father's suit wrinkled, her stepmother's eyes red raw. "Mia," her father began, voice trembling. "Jake's gone. Took everything, the house, the investments, and left us with nothing. We need help." Behind them, a news headline flashed on Mia's muted TV. Local heir Jake Carter faces fraud charges. That night, Mia dug out the old box beneath her bed. Inside lay the legal papers from years ago, her teenage diary filled with angry scrawls. "Why am I never enough?" And Jake's Instagram prints, yacht parties, Rolex purchases, all dated after he'd claimed the inheritance was tied up in business. Her lawyer's warning echoed, "They'll come back when he fails. Be ready." She'd listened. Every contract, every property deed was ironclad under her name alone. When her phone buzzed with Jake's number the next morning, she almost didn't answer. "Still bitter, huh?" he sneered. "You think you're so smart? Dad's sick, Mom's crying, you owe them." Mia glanced at her calendar, a charity gala next week supporting homeless youth. "Funny," she said coolly, "you owe them too. But I'm not the one hiding from creditors." She hung up, her chest tight. The guilt gnawed at her. Could she let them drown? But then she opened her laptop, pulling up the security footage of Jake withdrawing millions from their parents' accounts. Proof. Her parents returned the following day, desperation sharp in their voices. "We'll sign anything," her stepmother pleaded. "Just help us keep the house." Mia slid a document across her desk, a loan agreement with strict repayment terms. "This isn't family help," she said quietly. "It's business." Her father's hands shook as he reached for the pen. Outside, rain lashed the windows, mirroring the storm in Mia's gut. She'd won. So why did victory taste so hollow? Later, as she stared at her mother's photo, Mia realized the answer. Some wounds never fully heal. But as her phone lit up with a notification, Luxe Designs hitting 7 figures, she allowed herself a small smile. Blood didn't make family, and she'd built hers from scratch. The loan papers sat unsigned for days. Mia's parents hesitated, torn between pride and survival. Meanwhile, Jake's downfall spiraled. News outlets splashed his face across headlines. Disgraced heir accused of embezzlement. And creditors circled his abandoned mansion. Mia's social media buzzed with anonymous comments. "Heartless sister abandons family." She knew it was Jake, lashing out. But she'd prepared for this. Her lawyer leaked snippets of security footage to a trusted reporter, Jake emptying their parents' accounts, his smug grin caught on camera. The narrative shifted overnight. Now the headlines read, "Self-made millionaire exposes stepbrother's lies." Her parents finally signed the agreement on a rainy Tuesday, their signatures shaky. Mia transferred the funds, her accountant watching closely. "Every penny is tracked," he reminded her. "Default once, and we seize their assets." She nodded, but her stomach churned when her stepmother whispered, "Your mother would have been ashamed," at the door. That night, Mia dug out her old diary again, reading her teenage self's plea, "Why don't they love me?" She burned the pages in her fireplace, watching the flames swallow the words. Jake's next move was predictable. He showed up at her office, unshaven and desperate. "You ruined me!" he shouted, slamming his fists on her desk. Security dragged him out, but not before he spat. "You're just like Dad, cold and selfish." Mia didn't flinch. Instead, she forwarded his threats to her lawyer. By afternoon, a restraining order landed in Jake's inbox. But the real blow came weeks later. Mia's charity gala, a glittering event for homeless youth, was interrupted by her father's collapse. He'd hidden his worsening heart condition, too proud to ask for help. Paramedics wheeled him out as cameras flashed. Mia's stepmother sobbed in the corner. "We have no insurance. The hospital bills." Guests murmured, waiting for her reaction. Mia paused, then grabbed the mic. "Tonight's donations will cover his treatment," she announced, her voice steady. "But kindness isn't a blank check." The crowd erupted in applause. Her parents' relief was palpable, but Mia's smile didn't reach her eyes. Days later, her accountant found irregularities in her parents' repayments. They'd skipped the first installment, claiming family emergencies. Mia froze their accounts just as the contract allowed. Her father called, furious. "You'd starve your own blood?" "No," she replied, "but I'm not feeding your excuses anymore." That weekend, Mia visited the homeless shelter she'd funded. A teen girl, her eyes sharp with defiance, asked, "Why help strangers but not your family?" Mia thought of Jake, of her parents' choices, of the girl she'd once been. "Sometimes," she said, "strangers become family faster than blood ever does." As she left, her phone buzzed, a notification from her security team. Jake had been arrested at the border, trying to flee with fake passports. Mia deleted the alert and kept walking. The sky was clear, the air crisp. She'd built her life brick by brick, and no storm could knock it down now. The hospital bills were paid, but Mia's father never thanked her. Instead, he left voicemails filled with quiet rage. "You humiliated us at that gala. Was that your plan all along?" Mia deleted them, focusing on her new collection launch. But the past clung like shadows. One evening, her stepmother appeared at her penthouse clutching a dusty photo album. "Your mother wanted you to have this," she said, avoiding Mia's eyes. Inside were pictures Mia had never seen. Her mother holding her as a baby, laughing in a garden now buried under Jake's failed condo project. "She loved you," her stepmother whispered before leaving. Mia sat alone for hours, tracing the faded edges of her mother's smile. Jake's trial began the following week. Reporters camped outside the courthouse, shouting questions as Mia walked in. "Are you here to support your family?" She ignored them, taking a seat in the back. The evidence was damning. Forged documents, drained accounts, even a text where Jake bragged, "Dad's too dumb to notice I'm cleaning them out." When the judge sentenced him to 5 years, Mia's parents wept. Jake glared at her, mouthing, "This is your fault." She left without a word, her heels clicking like a countdown to freedom. But peace didn't last. A week later, Mia's accountant discovered her parents had sold their remaining jewelry to pay back part of the loan, all except her mother's vintage locket, the one Mia had coveted as a child. "They're trying," her lawyer said cautiously. Mia said nothing. That night, she found the locket in her mailbox, a crumpled note tucked inside. "Your mother would have wanted you to have this. We're sorry." The apology felt too late, the gesture too small. She dropped the locket into a drawer, where it clinked against her old car keys from a life she'd outgrown. Then came the storm. A tabloid published a leaked email from Mia's early days, a plea for a loan, her desperation raw on the screen. "Hypocrite," trended online. Jake's friends mocked her, rich girl pretending she struggled. Mia's team urged her to fight back, but she posted a single photo instead. Her rusty car, the mattress in the back still indented from nights she'd slept there. The caption read, "This is where rich girl lived after her family chose someone else." The backlash shifted. Strangers shared their own stories, flooding her comments with support. Her parents showed up one last time, this time in the rain. Her father's voice broke, "We lost everything. Even you." Mia handed them an envelope, a paid lease for a small apartment, 6 months' rent covered. "This isn't forgiveness," she said, "but I won't let you starve." As they drove away, Mia realized the anger that once fueled her had burned out. All that remained was pity. At the next charity board meeting, Mia proposed a new program, scholarships for disinherited teens. The vote was unanimous. Later, as she reviewed applications, one name made her pause: Emily Carter, 17, estranged from her family after coming out. Mia circled the name, her throat tight. "Everyone deserves a chance," she told her team. That night, she opened the drawer with the locket. For the first time in years, she clasped it around her neck. It felt light, like a chain finally broken. Outside, the city lights shimmered, a constellation of second chances she'd built herself. The past could haunt her, but it couldn't catch up, not anymore. The scholarship program launched with a gala. This time, Mia chose a community center over a ballroom. Teenagers in thrift store suits and glittering homemade jewelry mingled with donors. Emily Carter arrived late, her eyes wide at the buffet table piled with empanadas and lemon tarts. Mia watched her pocket 3 cookies, then approached the stage. "Thank you," Emily mumbled into the mic, gripping her essay on surviving homelessness. The crowd clapped, but Mia heard the tremor in her voice. Later, she pulled Emily aside. "I need an intern who isn't afraid to call out bullshit," she said, handing her a business card. Emily's laugh was startled, sharp. "You're weirder than the tabloids say." Jake's parole hearing loomed. Mia's lawyer warned he might be released early for good behavior. She dreamt of his voice in dark corridors, taunting, "You'll never be free of me." One morning, she found a dead rose taped to her office door, Jake's signature move from their childhood pranks. Her security team dismissed it as a fan stunt, but Mia hired a private investigator. "Find out who's still loyal to him," she ordered. Her parents' apartment burned down 2 weeks later. "Faulty wiring," the fire marshal said. Mia arrived as her stepmother sifted through ashes, salvaging a charred teacup. "It was hers," she said, pressing the cracked porcelain into Mia's hands. The gesture felt like a surrender. That night, Mia added their names to the lease of her Hamptons cottage, empty since her empire began. "Temporary," she texted her lawyer. He replied with a screenshot of Jake's Instagram, a blurry photo of their childhood treehouse, captioned, "Memory Lane." The storm hit at the scholarship's first workshop. Rain lashed the windows as Mia taught teens to negotiate contracts. Emily interrupted, holding up a leaked DM from a donor. "He says he'll fund us if I dress nicer." Mia froze. The man was her biggest investor. "Tell him to fuck off," she said. Emily grinned. "Can I use your exact words?" The room erupted in laughter, but Mia's hands shook. Later, she confronted the donor in his marble foyer. "You're done," she said, tearing up his check. His sneer reminded her of Jake. "You'll regret this." Regret came at 3 a.m. when her CFO resigned, taking 3 clients with him. "They're calling you unstable," he said. Mia drank bourbon straight from the bottle, staring at her mother's locket. Then she drafted an email to her team. "Effective immediately. 20% of profits go to the scholarship fund. No compromises." The backlash was instant. Board members threatened lawsuits. Emily stormed into her office waving a news headline. "Mia Valencia sinks empire for lost kids." "You can't save us if you're bankrupt," she shouted. Mia leaned back, calm as the eye of a hurricane. "Watch me." At Jake's parole hearing, Mia wore the locket. He entered in shackles, smirk intact. "Still playing hero?" he hissed. She said nothing, playing the security tape of him bribing a guard. The room exploded. Jake lunged, guards dragging him out as he screamed, "You'll always be alone." Outside, reporters swarmed. "Any comment?" one yelled. Mia handed them Emily's essay. "Read this," she said. "That's my statement." That night, Emily texted a photo. Her dorm room, the scholarship acceptance letter pinned beside Mia's card. "Don't screw this up," Mia replied. Then she opened her balcony doors, the city's hum rising like a promise. The locket gleamed, no longer a chain but a compass. Somewhere, Jake raged in a cell. Her parents slept in a house she'd built. And Mia? She finally slept through the night. The leaked video spread like wildfire, a shaky clip of Mia slamming a bourbon bottle on her desk, cursing at a board member. Mia Valencia unhinged, trended by Dawn. Donors pulled out of the scholarship, and angry emails flooded her inbox. Emily barged into her office, phone blazing with hate comments. "They're saying you're a fraud," she hissed. Mia swiveled her laptop, showing security footage of the board member's smirk as he provoked her that night. "Let them talk," she said, "but leak this clip next." The full video, showing the investor's sexist remark, changed the narrative. By noon, the hashtag #IStandWithMia trended higher than the scandal. Emily's discovery came next. Buried in the resigned CFO's files were payments to Jake's old lawyer. "He's been funneling money to Jake's parole team," she said, slamming printouts on Mia's desk. Mia's jaw tightened. She called her investigator. Dig deeper. Find the connection. Hours later, they uncovered photos, the CFO meeting Jake's ex-girlfriend at a shady bar. Mia forwarded everything to the police. "Time to clean house," she muttered, deleting the CFO's access to her accounts. The rival fashion line launched the same week. Eclat Designs copied Mia's signature patterns, down to the lotus motif she'd sketched in her car years ago. Their ads mocked Lux's prices. Why pay more for less? Mia's team panicked, but she booked a primetime interview. On live TV, she held up 2 scarves, one from Lux, one from Eclat. "Mine's woven by single moms earning fair wages," she said, yanking a thread from Eclat's scarf. It unraveled instantly. "Theirs? Cheap labor? You decide." Sales for Lux tripled overnight. The treehouse letter arrived next. Mia recognized her mother's handwriting. "The treehouse isn't empty. Come see." She hadn't visited since Jake burned their childhood photos there. The woods were eerily quiet, the treehouse sagging under ivy. Inside, she found a dusty box of her mother's journals. The first entry froze her. "Mia's laughter is my compass. Jake's jealousy breaks me. I'll fix this." Pages later, scribbled in shaky ink, "They forced me to choose. Forgive me." Mia's knees buckled. Her mother hadn't abandoned her. She'd been pressured. Jake's voice slithered from the shadows. "Touching, right? Mom's little martyr." He stepped into the light, parole ankle monitor blinking. "I showed Dad the journals. He cried. Pathetic." Mia clutched the pages. "Why keep this hidden?" Jake laughed. "Watching you suffer was funnier." She lunged, but he dodged, snapping photos of the journals with his phone. "Let's see how heroes handle dirty family secrets." Mia didn't chase him. Instead, she drove to her parents' cottage. Her father answered, eyes bloodshot. "Did you know?" she demanded, shoving the journals at him. He crumpled, confessing through sobs. "Your stepmother threatened to leave if we didn't favor Jake. Your mother, she agreed to protect you." Mia's rage dissolved into grief. "Protect me? You erased me." Her stepmother hovered in the doorway, silent. The next morning, Mia uploaded the journals to her blog. "Truth isn't pretty," she wrote, "but it's ours." Followers dissected every word. Jake's photos backfired. Fans praised Mia's vulnerability instead of mocking it. Emily texted, "You're nuts, but kinda brave." At the scholarship gala that night, Mia announced a new fund in her mother's name. "For every parent who stays silent," she said, "we'll scream louder." Emily handed her a scarf, the unraveled eclat one, stitched into a lotus. "Wear it," she grinned. "It's chaos, but it's yours." As fireworks lit the sky, Mia's phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Check the treehouse again." She ignored it, laughing as Emily photobombed a stuffy donor's selfie. Some ghosts could wait. The manipulated voice notes dropped at midnight, Jake's final gambit. A grainy audio clip of Mia admitting she forged her mother's journals flooded gossip sites. By morning, protesters gathered outside Lux Designs, chanting, "Fraud." Mia sat cross-legged on her office floor, surrounded by her tech team. "The audio's spliced," one said, highlighting timestamps where Jake's voice bled through. Mia live-streamed the proof, her tone icy. "Desperate people make desperate edits. but lies unravel faster than cheap scarves. The clip trended alongside a meme of Jake's parole photo photoshopped into a clown costume. Eclad's CEO, Jake's ex-girlfriend Lena, made her move next. She invited Mia to a televised debate, smirking over a glittering Eclat logo. "Admit you stole our designs," Lena demanded. Mia tossed a folder on stage, bank records showing Lena funneling money to Jake's parole officer. "Funny," Mia said. "Your original patterns match sketches from my 2012 diary. Want to explain that too?" The audience jeered as Lena stormed off. By sundown, Eclat's website vanished, replaced by a single word: bankrupt. The stepmother's lawsuit collapsed faster. Her claim that Mia invaded privacy by sharing the journals backfired when Mia's lawyer produced old emails, her stepmother pressuring Mia's mother to disinherit her. "You weaponized her illness," Mia said in court, watching her stepmother's face pale. The judge dismissed the case, adding, "Some secrets deserve sunlight." Reporters hounded the stepmother into hiding, her name synonymous with greed. The treehouse collapsed in a summer storm. Mia arrived to find firefighters hauling away splintered wood and a glint in the mud. Her mother's second locket, buried for decades, held a faded note. "My Mia, forgive me. I left you the truth in the journals. You're stronger than all of them." Mia clasped it beside the first locket, their twin hearts clicking like a lock undone. At the scholarship's anniversary gala, Mia took the stage. The crowd hushed. "People ask why I fight so hard," she said, nodding to Emily in the front row. "It's not for revenge. It's for every kid told they're not enough." She unveiled the Elena Valencia Foundation, named for her mother, funding shelters and legal aid for disowned teens. The screen behind her flashed a live feed. Jake, now working roadside diner gigs, scrubbing grease off a grill. The audience erupted. Afterward, Mia stood on her penthouse balcony, the city lights blurring into a constellation of victories. Emily joined her, holding 2 sodas. "You gonna be okay?" she asked. Mia smiled, tapping her lockets. "I already am." The next morning, Mia's assistant rushed in, waving a letter. "It's from your dad." Mia unfolded it slowly. A single sentence. "She'd be proud of you." She tucked it into her mother's journal, the pages now dog-eared and coffee-stained. Outside, the city buzzed, a symphony of second chances. Mia's phone lit up with a Luxe Designs alert, 7th store opening in Paris. She grabbed her keys, Emily trailing behind. "Where are we going?" Emily groaned. "To annoy more corrupt CEOs?" Mia laughed. "Nope. Breakfast. I'm buying." As they drove past the old family estate, now a bustling community center for her foundation, Mia didn't glance back. The rearview mirror held nothing she needed anymore. The road ahead, wide open, bright, and hers alone.